Good morning, everyone. We will get started in just a moment. We're going to give everyone a chance to get connected to audio.
Pad out just in case.
Those of you just joining, we will start momentarily. We've still got a few people in the waiting room that we are connecting to audio. Haley, I think we've got most everyone in if you'd like to get started.
I started and I was on mute. That's a good way to start. Good morning, everyone. My name is Haley. As you all, I think I've met many of you via email, working with you on your New Mexico Match Fund Grant Awards, and I'm really glad you're able to join us this morning for our first training session for recipients and AmpliFund. AmpliFund is going to be the new system we use to accept applications and then administer grant awards for the New Mexico Match Fund. And now I'll introduce Jennifer, who's with AmpliFund, to take us through this training. And we'll just ask that you hold all questions to the end of the training. So pass it to you, Jennifer.
Thanks, Haley. Good morning, everyone. My name is Jennifer, and I will be leading your training today, as Haley said. A couple of housekeeping notes before we get started. I will ask you to remain on mute during the presentation. There will be a time at the end where you can unmute and ask questions. If you'd like to put your questions in the chat as we go along throughout the presentation, I will monitor that the best that I can, and otherwise we will address your questions at the end. And with that, we will get started. So our training today is learning how to navigate in the state of New Mexico's new federal grants management system called AmpliFund. So we're going to do some basic learning on how to move through AmpliFund, how to edit your account and get all users set up for your organization, how to view your grants from the state, and then how to run reports. We'll start by talking about how to get into AmpliFund for the first time. So when the state of New Mexico provides you an award from the New Mexico Match Fund, you are going to receive an activation email. This will come from an email address that is no-reply@gotomygrants.com. There's a screenshot of the email in the slide deck here, and I'll draw your attention to the box that says link if you have an account, and then the box that says link to register. For most of you, you're going to want to click the words "this link," which are going to take you to a registration screen. If you have used AmpliFund before and you have an account, you'll just click that login to log in as normal. Since most of us are probably new to the system, we're going to spend a little bit of time talking through the registration. If you are coming into AmpliFund for the first time, when you click on this link text, it's going to take you to a registration screen. It will already have your email up. What you'll need to do is to create a password and then confirm that password and click submit. Going forward, when you come into AmpliFund, you'll always come to gotomygrants.com. You'll enter your email address and that password that you've created and click login. Again, I do want to draw your attention to that no-reply@gotomygrants.com email. If you happen to forget your password, that's where the reset is going to come from. So you would click forget your password, you'll get an email from that address, and then you can create a new password. All system notifications from AmpliFund and from the state will send from that no-reply at gotomygrants.com. I would highly recommend that you add that email as a safe sender in your email so that it does not go into your junk mail. So that's how we'll get into the system for the first time, registering, creating a password. Once that we're logged into the system, we're going to look at some general navigation and how to update your account. So I'm going to come into AmpliFund, and this is what you will see when you log in for the first time. You'll always come to this calendar page, and this is going to be kind of a central landing point for you. Up in the right-hand corner, you'll see your name. My name for today is going to be Jane. If I click my name, I'm going to see some information here. So here's where I can change my password. I can also view my account information. So if I click account information, this is where I can check my name. If for some reasons it's misspelled, I can enter that. I can enter some other basic information about myself. If I want to return to that home page, I'm going to use the left menu and click calendar. So again, calendar is going to be my navigation page. You'll notice here that I have some tasks. As you start to receive awards from the state, you will also see tasks populate related to those grants. And they are color coded. So for example, I had some tasks due on December 31st that I have not yet completed, which is why they're red. I also have some tasks upcoming on January 31st, which are in green, and one that I've completed, which is in gray. So this is going to be a good view for you of what you have due to the state at any point in time. Right now, it's showing me all of my grants. I can use the filter in the upper right corner to look at a particular grant to see upcoming tasks for that grant. So I can change that as needed, or I can come back to all. And I can toggle through different months over here in the left. You can also sync this to your native calendar. So if you use Outlook, if you use Gmail, and you want to bring in these tasks from AmpliFund into your email, you can do that by clicking this subscribe button in the upper right. It will bring up this pop-up window. You can click sync to your calendar, or you can use this link to manually sync. Let's talk about some basic navigation items with AmpliFund now. As you notice, there's some icons up here in the right corner. This is what I would call my action icons. They're going to change depending what page you are on in AmpliFund, but this is typically where you're going to look to perform an action in the system, like syncing your calendar. In the bottom right here, we see a logo. This is called the Resource Center. If you click this, this is going to have help guides for you as you're working through AmpliFund. I want to especially draw your attention to these recipient onboarding guides. These are going to be step-by-step guides of how to move through AmpliFund. So especially as you're learning, you're coming to the system for the first time, this is going to be a very good review for you of the training that we're doing today. So I can click onto this guide to open it, and it's going to highlight certain things to do for me in the system. So it's showing me that the user menu is here. I can click next, and it's going to take me to the next item here, subscribe to the calendar, and I can keep moving through this guide, and it's going to show me different parts of the system. If at any time I want to leave it, I can just click the X, and I can always restart it by coming back to the recipient onboarding guide. So we have a couple different versions of those in onboarding and grant management. You can also access AmpliFund support through the Resource Center. So you can type here to have a chat bot. We'll talk about other ways to access AmpliFund support. But if I'm looking for help articles on my budget, I can type in that keyword and then be linked to different articles that relate to my budgets. So this is a really good tool that I want to you to know about. I can also access AmpliFund support by the I in the upper right-hand corner. This is going to send a ticket to AmpliFund support team. So if you're having any technical issues as you're navigating AmpliFund, you can come to them here. In addition, you can contact the support team in a couple of different ways. If you're out of the product, you can email support@amplifund.zendesk.com, or you can call the help desk. It is manned from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern Time, Monday through Fridays. Or you can directly visit the support portal at amplifund.zendesk.com. And in the support portal here, I can also submit a ticket and I can find training guides as well. What's going to be especially relevant to you is this recipient and applicant training section here. You'll find video guides as well as written guides on how to do certain items in the system. So let's return to AmpliFund. We've talked about our action icons in the upper right, how to access AmpliFund support. The next navigation item that I want to draw your attention to is our left-hand menu. So over here, you can see as I hover that there's different parts of the menu I can access. I can also expand this by clicking the gray circle with an arrow. So I have an activity section in my menu. This is where I can see different messages from the state. I can also see tasks, achievements, reporting that's due. I can see my contacts. We'll spend a lot of time in grant management today. We'll come back to that. I can access reports, which we'll look at a little later, and I have a central document repository across all of my grants. So your navigation options in AmpliFund are typically this left menu or our action icons in the upper right. The next thing that we want to do is get our account set up for our organization. So when you log into AmpliFund, you're actually logging into your organization's account. So the state is going to have issued an award to your organization. My example here is the city of Anytown. Within that organization account are different users, Jane, myself, and John. So I need to get John set up so he can access our organization's account. That's what we're going to do next in our training. To do that, I'm going to use my left menu. I will come to Administration, and then I'm going to click on License Information. This is where I can edit basic details about my organization. So if I click the edit pencil, I can adjust my name. Maybe if there's an acronym used here that I want to spell out, I can do that. I can also enter my organization's primary address. I can enter my unique identifier from sam.gov. I will also be asked to enter my EIN or my federal tax ID. And when I have all of those pieces of information entered, I'm going to click Update. That's how I update my account for my organization. So again, this is an organizational account of which I am a user. I may also need to add other users to my account. So that could be John in our case. So we're going to look at how to add him to our AmpliFund account. To add users, I'm again going to come to Administration, System Security, Users. To create a new user, I'm going to click the plus icon in the upper right-hand corner where my action items live. And then I have an initial choice here, subscribe to daily or weekly emails. These are going to be emails from AmpliFund that tell you what tasks you have due. Each user can change this individually, but you're going to want to set kind of an initial amount for that user. And then as we create the user, we need to select what they have access to in the system. If you want them to have access to everything, you're going to click Accounts, and then you're going to choose the type of role that they have. An admin is going to be able to do everything in AmpliFund. An editor is going to be able to view, edit, and assign users to records. Users are only going to be able to view records that they're assigned to, or you have view-only access. You can also provide more granular access. If someone just needs to apply to the New Mexico Match Fund, for instance, I can select applications. If they're going to manage grants, maybe I want to select grants, and then I can choose roles within those types of objects. So this user I want to be able to edit, view, create. So I'm going to make them an editor both in my application portal and in my grants. And then I can further provide restrictions. If they shouldn't be able to approve anything, I can check that. If they shouldn't be able to see the budget, I can put that restriction on their account. If I want them to be able to access everything, I can leave these unchecked. So I'm going to create my user, enter their first and last name, and then enter their email address. Their email is how they log into AmpliFund, so be sure that you have the right email here. And then I'm going to click Create. Once I've created their user, I need to invite them into the system. So I'm going to click this envelope icon in the upper right. This is going to send John an email, and he's going to get an email similar to what we saw at the beginning of the session that invites him to log in, create a password, so he can also access our City of Anytown's AmpliFund account. You can create as many users as you need. Okay. So now that we've learned some basic navigation, how to update our organization's account information, and how to add users to our organization's account, let's talk about how to view grant records in AmpliFund. To do this, I'm going to use my left-hand menu again. I'm going to come to the Grants Management section. And then here you see I've got a little caret next to grants. I can expand this, and then I have different statuses of grants. If I want to view them all, I can do that. If I just want to look at closed grants, I can, or active grants. So this is a way to kind of narrow down how many grants you're going to look at. I'm going to start by looking at all of the grants in my account. And if I want more room on my screen, I can always collapse this left menu and expand it when I need to. So where I am now is the grants grid. This is where you're going to come very frequently in AmpliFund. I can use this grid in a variety of ways. The first thing that I can do is I can add columns to this grid. So if there's different information that I want to see displayed here, I can click the drop-down arrow on any column, hover over columns, and then I can select fields that I want to see. For example, I may want to see the start and end date of my grant. I may also want to see whether or not my grant has any cash match that's required. So I'm going to turn on all of those fields by checking them. You'll notice the boxes turn blue with a check mark. Now that I have them in my grid here, I may want to reorder my fields. I'm going to click and drag the start date up towards after award status. And you can see there's little double arrows that are showing me where I'm going to drop that field. I'm going to do the same thing with end date. I'm going to drag it after start date. And I'm going to drag cash amount after total awarded amount. So I'm going to just keep moving these fields around until I get this view displayed the way I want it to look. I can also filter on this. So if I'm looking for a particular award, for example, my match fund grant, I'm going to pick the grant name column or whatever column I want to filter with. Click the drop down arrow, hover over filter, click contains, and then I'm going to put in a keyword and click filter, and it's going to narrow my view. I can remove this filter by clicking clear. The other thing that I can do with this grid, right now it's showing me 8 items and I have 25 total. I could change this to show 5,000 at once if you ever have that many grants. And I can also drag these columns. So notice here that I have some approved grants and some closed grants. If I want to see those grouped together, I can drag the award status, and notice I've got those double arrows again, and I'm going to drop it at the top. So now I see my grants grouped in what's approved and what's closed. If this is a view that I like to see every time I log into AmpliFund, I'm going to save it. So I'm going to come to my action items here, and I'm going to save this view. I'm going to give it a name. I'm going to call it grants by status. I can put in a description if I want, and I'm going to check private. So this is a view only I can see. If I leave this unchecked, everyone in my organization can see it. So you may want to create some views across your organization, but to start with, maybe start by creating some private views just for yourself. So what that does, if I would come back to grants management, grants here, my grid's going to reset. Instead, I can come to views and I can click grants by status, and it's going to keep all of those filters, all of the fields I added, how I reordered them, how I grouped them. So if you want to see different views of your grants, this is how you can work with this grid. And you'll see grids like this throughout AmpliFund, and these navigation and ways that you can work with them and save the views are going to apply to all of those grids. Now that we understand how to navigate to our grants and how to set up a view, let's look at a grant itself. We're going to look at this Test FY25 matching grant. When I click on the grant name, I'm going to be taken to the award details page. You can think of this as the cover sheet to your award. It's going to give you basic information about the award from the state. For example, you see the award name that the state gave it. You can see that you've received $100,000. You have no match for this grant. And then you're going to see some fields here that are going to update in real time as you go through your financial processes with the state. Down below in the post-award information section, you're going to see who from the state is managing this grant. You'll also see an identification number that they assigned to it. If it's a federal program, you may see an assistance listing number listed, and you'll always see a period of performance. So your period of performance start date, your period of performance end date, and your anticipated closeout date. Again, if it's federal, you may see the federal agency involved and the federal award number. So if it's a pass-through grant, you'll see that type of information here. The state may provide you a description. So there's a lot of information here that's going to give you basic details that should align with your agreement. You can also edit this page for your own use. So again, I'm going to come to the action icons here in the upper right. And I have some fields that I can change. The state gives the award a name, but I can also give it a name. So if internally I have a different name for this, I can type that in here. I also need to select who from my organization is going to be managing this grant. This is a grant that I manage myself, so I'm going to select my name. This means that I'm going to receive all notifications from this grant from the state. So all of the tasks that the state signs up can be assigned to me. If I have someone else who helps me from my organization on this grant, I can put them in the additional users. So if John works with me on this grant, I'm also going to assign him here. I can put as many people in additional users as I want, but we can only have one manager who receives the notifications. I also get a description box, so I can put in an internal description here of what this award is. And then if I have our organization has some sort of a code or an ID that we use to identify this grant, I can put it in the unique identifier. Once we've done that, we're going to click Save. So one of the first things that you need to do when logging in is come to your grant and assign the people from your organization that work on those grants. So now that we're in the grant record itself, we have some additional navigation options available to us. Notice that we now have a menu here across the top. The first tab is an analytics tab. This is going to give you a dashboard of your grant, which we'll look at in a moment. We also have a post-award tab where you're going to spend a variety of time. So here we view our budget and our expenses, if that's applicable. We may have performance data. Our analytics dashboard is going to bring in some various items about the grant, like our manager that we just assigned, our start and end date, closeout date. It's intended to be a kind of quick view of where you are in your grant. So for example, I can see where I'm doing in my budget, and I could see by category here how much I've spent. If I have any milestones associated with the grant, I'll show them here. I'm going to see my upcoming tasks due here under upcoming items. And then I have quick links to different parts of the system that we'll explore as we go through additional trainings this week. These links can also be found in the post-award menu. So I can find my budget and expenses here. If I have performance plans, I can find them here. This is where I can submit payment requests to the state or amendments. So there's almost multiple ways to navigate. You can do so directly from the dashboard, or you can use the post-award menu. We've already talked about the tasks that show up on my calendar. I can find those under Tools, Tasks. So this is where I'm going to see all of the tasks associated with this grant. I can edit them as I go throughout the process by clicking those edit pencils, marking where I am in the task and saving. If I click grant here in the top menu, I can come back to my full task list. If I've done a handful of them and I want to mark them as complete, I can check them and then click this check mark to mark as complete. So you'll have some active task management as you go along that's going to help you know where you are with your grant. Also in tasks is our documents. So if you want to upload any documents to your grant, you can do so. This is giving you a central document repository. You're going to see some system generated folders here as you work with your award over time that are going to populate, but you can always use the right icons in the upper right to upload documents or create folders. So if I click upload documents, I'm going to get a pop-up where I can choose my file explorer. I can then select what document I want to upload and click open. And then this is here for everyone in my organization to see who has access to this grant. Also in tools are notes. So this is where I may have, can keep track of conversations with my funder, for example, just notes that I want to make internally that relate to my grant. I have none yet. I can always use my action icons in the upper right to create a new one. I can give it a title, select what type of note it is, and then put my information in the body and attach any file that I need to. So that's our basic navigation around our grant. We start with the details page where we assign our recipient manager and any additional users. And then we use our top menu to navigate through the grant itself. We do have a question in the chat that I'm going to answer before we move on, and it's about the tasks. The question is, do we need to complete tasks in order, meaning you must complete a task before you can move on to the next one? And no, you don't. Some of these tasks, you can complete them in order or you can move around. So as you can see, I've got one in progress here. I can complete one down below. So if I can complete them as I move through them. If I'm ahead on one area, I can mark those off as I get them done. Good question. Okay. The last navigation item that I want to go through with you today is how to run reports in AmpliFund. Again, I navigate with my left menu, so I'm going to expand it here. I'll come to reports, and let's look at our post-award reports. So I can click on this, or I can right-click and open it in a new tab. It's your preference. I like to use tabs to move through AmpliFund so I can flip back and forth or have them up on different monitors. And let's run this post-award status report. This is going to give me an overview of my entire grant portfolio and some key data points around each of those awards. So I'll let it load. It's pulling in all of the information across my organization's account. So you can see the grant names, who the grant manager is, period of performance. So some of those information that we saw on the grant details page and in the grid, but now it's compiled in like a tabular format in this report. All of the reports are going to have some similar features to them. They'll have different data, but you'll often see a filter panel over here on the right. So what I can do with this is I can apply filters as needed. So in this case, if I want to just look at my closed grants, I can check that option and the report's going to narrow down the data. So here I can see that I've got a total of 465,000 grants that are closed. If I want to see approved ones, I can do the same. I've got $370,000 in open grants today. And then I can adjust the fields that I see in this report. So for example, if I don't want to see this risk field, I can turn it off in the filter panel under columns. Maybe I also don't want to see departments and subjects. So I can turn those off to get this kind of in the view that I want to see. I can always look at this in system, but if I need to export this and share this with someone in my information that does not have AmpliFund or access to AmpliFund, I can always export it using the drop down in the upper right here. So I can export it to a spreadsheet, PDF, Word document, or CSV. Let's try the PDF. And it's going to keep all of the formatting that I selected. This is a pretty wide report, so a spreadsheet may be the better option. Typically, depending on your browser settings, the spreadsheet is going to immediately download for you like that. So these reports are going to be useful as you manage your award throughout its life cycle. You have a variety of them available to you under post and pre-award. So today we have covered a variety of topics on how to navigate AmpliFund, how to access customer support, and how to view our grants and update our grant managers. So some immediate next steps that you're going to take following this training are logging into AmpliFund, updating your account information, check that your organization has at least 2 users in your account, and then go through all of your awards that you've received from the state and assign a grant manager to each grant. At this point, we also have some time left for questions. So if anyone has questions over anything we saw in the session today, you can use the chat box, or you could also at this point raise your hand and you can unmute and ask your question. I do see one that came in the chat that Anna answered for us. Can your entity use this database to manage grants not awarded by the state? Yes, you can. And if you're interested about that, Anna or Haley can get you my contact information. Any other questions we have about the training? Or anything that we want to go back and revisit? I'll pause here, but I will leave up our next steps for you. Hey.
They can expect to receive application.
When are we expected to receive the activation emails? Haley, can you answer that?
Yeah, so we are currently file audit of your awards right now and making sure we have everything ready to go for your grant award. So I anticipate that by the end of the month or the first week of February, we should anticipate the activation email. And that will go to the person that submitted your match fund. And that will go to that email and they will need to set up anybody else who needs the various other permissions to access it. So those are the only emails we have.
Right. And then there's another question in this chat about administering several CDBG grants for our communities for the actual grantees. How can we use the system to manage those grants? Oh, sorry. Let me repeat back. It looked like we had some audio issues with Haley. The short answer on when you're expected to receive the activation emails, Haley and team are doing a file audit. So they are planning to send those activation emails end of January or early February. And then another question here, Anna answered about CDBG grants. So look at that in the chat. Capital outlay grants will be separate. Any other questions that we have?
Jennifer, let me just say, because I see that folks who are hands-on with grants are excited about the AmpliFund system for exactly the same reasons that we've been excited about the AmpliFund system. We've selected it as a centralized grants management system for the state of New Mexico. And we have an initial cohort of state agencies working with it. If there's interest, and it sounds like maybe there is, we can put out an invitation to an informational session if folks want to have a demo or that kind of thing too, because we've been setting up quickly and piloting it with our agencies, but we definitely want to be able to make it a resource available to others too.
Thanks, Anna. All right, great questions. What else do we have? Will the emails for the training opportunities for tomorrow and Friday be forthcoming? Haley, I believe those have already been sent. Is that correct?
Is that directed towards me?
Yes. Yeah.
So
The question about the emails for the training.
Yeah, this was already shared out in the original email. You can shoot me an email if you need access to those links, or to Anna. Either of us can give them to you. But in the initial email before this one got rescheduled, it had links to all three.
Yes. Okay, and these are all being recorded as well. So if you're unable to make those times, you can access them later too.
Yes, that's correct. They'll be posted on the DFA website on the Match Fund page when they're all concluded. So later this week, most likely early next week.
We'll also make this slide deck available to you. It has a reference section in the back, which is going to have links to some user guides for you, as well as the support site information that we went over in the beginning of our session today. With that, I'm not seeing any additional questions. Keep an eye out for those activation emails so you can do these first 4 steps here. And then I hope to see you in trainings the remainder of this week.
Thank you, everyone. We look forward to seeing you in the next trainings.
Thank you.